Imagine a country where parents receive 480 days of paid leave after a child is born, the most generous parental policy in human history, where the government has ranked #1 in global gender equality for 5 consecutive years, where the Nobel Peace Prize is awarded every single December. This is Sweden. But Sweden in 2026 is also the country that secretly incinerated 60 tons of unsold clothing while selling you sustainability. The country where a gang grenade explodes every 72 hours. The country that forcibly sterilized 63,000 of its own citizens and kept doing it until 1975. Noble ideals, hidden brutality. This real-life files documentary goes inside the Sweden that tourism boards never show you. This is real life in Sweden. Chapter 1. The Gang War Inside the Welfare State. Stand in Biskopsgården, on the northwestern edge of Gothenburg, Sweden. The first thing you notice is how ordinary it looks. The streets are clean. The playgrounds have new rubber matting and painted climbing frames. The apartment towers rise in Scandinavian pastels, pale blue, dusty yellow, soft white. Sweden built neighborhoods like this as proof of something, that a state could provide dignity to every single citizen, regardless of origin. Then the grenades started. In 2022, Sweden recorded 391 shootings and 62 gang-related homicides, according to the Swedish Police Authority. That statistic does not belong to a failed state. It does not belong to a country struggling to feed its people. It belongs to the country that invented the Nobel Peace Prize and operates the world's most generous welfare system. The roots run 30 years deep. Through the 1990s and early 2000s, Sweden accepted some of the highest per capita refugee intakes in all of Europe, more than Germany, more than France. The political will was genuine. The integration systems were not built to absorb the scale. Neighborhoods like Biskopsgården in Gothenburg, Rosengård in Malmö, and Rinkeby in Stockholm became geographic pockets of unemployment and language exclusion, isolated from mainstream Swedish life by barriers the welfare state never dismantled. According to Sweden's National Council for Crime Prevention, known as BRÅ, young men in these suburbs face unemployment rates 3 times the national average. 3 times. The gangs found them first. By the mid-2000s, criminal networks including Foxtrot, Dödspatrullen, and Shottaz had carved Swedish cities into operational drug territories. The violence follows its own brutal arithmetic. One shooting triggers a retaliation. The retaliation triggers another. Sweden's police authority has formally described the cycle as an upward spiral of violence with no natural endpoint. In 2023, the Swedish government deployed military units alongside police in the residential streets of its own suburbs. A domestic military mobilization Sweden had not seen since 1945. By 2023, Eurostat placed Sweden among the top 3 nations in Western Europe for gun homicide rates per capita, ahead of Italy, ahead of France, ahead of Spain. The Swedish National Council for Crime Prevention recorded 45 grenade attacks on Swedish soil in 2023 alone. In the country where the biggest peacetime debate of the 1990s was whether to join the European Union. Chapter 2. The loneliness the welfare state cannot fix. The Swedish welfare system gives you health care, free. It gives you parental leave, fully paid, for over a year. It gives you free university education, subsidized housing, state-funded childcare from infancy. Sweden has built the most comprehensive human safety net in recorded history. And yet, there is one thing that net has never been able to catch. The weight of having no one to call. Sweden is one of the most isolated societies on Earth, not by poverty, but by institutional design. According to Statistics Sweden, more than 50% of all households in major Swedish cities are single-person households. Stockholm's figure reaches 60%. For comparison, in the United States, that number is 28%. In Italy, 33%. In Vietnam, below 10%. Sweden has constructed a world where the individual is so protected, so self-sufficient, so entirely supported by state systems that the human need for community has been quietly engineered away. Your neighbors in Stockholm almost certainly do not know your name. This is not considered strange. This is considered normal. The result is a loneliness epidemic wearing the mask of prosperity. Anna, 38, works in marketing in central Stockholm. She has lived in the same apartment for 7 years. She sees 3 colleagues daily. She cannot name a single person she would call close. In Sweden, she told journalists at Dagens Nyheter, "You do not knock on your neighbor's door. You do not invite someone for coffee unless you have known them for a year." The culture makes closeness feel intrusive. Anna has not built a meaningful friendship since university. She is not unusual. She is Sweden. Sweden's National Board of Health and Welfare, Socialstyrelsen, reports that antidepressant prescriptions increased 30% between 2010 and 2023. Sweden now ranks among the highest nations in Europe for antidepressant use, according to OECD Health Statistics 2023. Psychiatrists in Stockholm's public hospitals describe a waiting list crisis. Patients waiting up to 18 months for a therapy appointment inside a healthcare system Sweden presents to the world as universal and free. Then add the darkness, literally. In northern Sweden, above the Arctic Circle, the sun does not rise for weeks during winter. Abisko in Lapland sees no sunlight from late November to mid-January. The University of Umeå has documented that seasonal affective disorder affects approximately 10% of Sweden's northern population. The World Health Organization records Sweden's suicide rate at approximately 12 per 100,000 above the European Union average. You can build a welfare state. You cannot legislate human connection. Sweden knows this better than any country on Earth. It just doesn't include that part in a brochure. What about where you're watching from? Drop your country in the comments. I'm genuinely curious. I read every single one. Chapter 3. The Progressive Nation That Sterilized Its Own People. But now we reach the fact that has been waiting since the beginning of this video. Sweden. The country the world holds as its moral benchmark. The country that hands out Nobel Peace Prizes every December. Ranked first in global gender equality for 5 consecutive years. Home to free university, 480 days of paid parental leave, and universal health care. A nation that teaches the rest of the world what progressive looks like. This country ran a forced sterilization program for 40 years. Not in the 1800s, not under a monarchy. Not under occupation or wartime emergency. Under the Social Democratic Party, the exact political movement credited with building Sweden's identity as the world's most compassionate state. Between 1935 and 1975, the Swedish government forcibly sterilized 63,000 of its own citizens. This is not a disputed figure. This is the Swedish government's own conclusion, drawn from its official investigation published in 1999. 63,000 people. The program was not a dark secret. It was the law. Sweden passed its Sterilization Act in 1934, supported by Sweden's own Institute for Race Biology, Statens Institut för Rasbiologi, founded in Uppsala in 1922. Sweden, not Germany, was the first country in the world to establish a state-funded institute of race science. Swedish academics debated eugenics, the government-controlled management of human reproduction, with the same intellectual seriousness they applied to welfare policy. The ideology of the caring state and the ideology of race science grew from the same Swedish soil, in the same decade, under the same political party. The targets were not criminals, women classified as feeble-minded by a government doctor, mothers deemed asocial by a welfare board, Roma and traveler women, women with epilepsy, schizophrenia, or physical disabilities, women who had borne children outside marriage. The decision of whether a Swedish woman could have children belonged not to her, but to a medical review committee. Consent was manufactured through institutional coercion. Sign this form, or you will not leave this facility. The program ran until 1975, 30 years after the Holocaust ended, a decade after the United States Civil Rights Act, 5 years after the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Mentally Retarded Persons. Sweden did not confront this publicly until 1997, when investigative journalist Maciej Zaremba exposed it in Dagens Nyheter, the national newspaper. 2 years later, the Swedish government confirmed 63,000 forced procedures. Compensation offered to survivors? 175,000 Swedish kroner, approximately $17,500, per life altered without consent. But here is the sharpest edge of this paradox. The sterilization requirement did not end for everyone in 1975. Until 2013, Swedish law mandated that any transgender person seeking legal gender recognition must first undergo compulsory sterilization. The country that presents itself as the world's most LGBTQ+ inclusive nation required its transgender citizens to be surgically sterilized as a legal precondition for official identity recognition until 2013. Until 6 years before a global pandemic forced the world to reconsider what mattered. A welfare state, a eugenics state, the same laws, the same parliament, the same flag. Should a country's willingness to confront its darkest chapters earn it the right to moral leadership, or does the history itself permanently disqualify the claim? Drop your thoughts below. This is a debate worth having. Chapter 4. The brand that built Sweden's image. Stand on Drottninggatan, Stockholm's main pedestrian shopping boulevard. It is elegant, clean, lined with people carrying green and red paper bags. This is where Sweden shows you the version of itself it has decided you should see. Behind every bag, there is a factory floor. Behind every factory floor, there is a woman in Dhaka, Bangladesh, earning $113 a month. H&M, Hennes and Mauritz, founded in Västerås, Sweden in 1947 by Erling Persson. Today, the second largest fashion retailer on earth, annual revenue exceeding $22 billion, according to the H&M Group 2022 annual report. H&M works with approximately 1.6 million supplier factory workers globally, the vast majority in Bangladesh, Cambodia, and Sri Lanka, according to the Business and Human Rights Resource Center. Here is the number that defines H&M's model: $113 per month. That is Bangladesh's garment worker minimum wage, raised in November 2023 after years of strikes. Before that negotiation, it was $95 per month. That is the wage paid to the hands that make the jackets hanging in H&M's Drottninggatan flagship, where a single jacket retails for $80. A worker earning $113 a month would need to work 1 month to buy the things she just made. In April 2013, the Rana Plaza building in Dhaka collapsed. The structure housed garment factories supplying global fashion brands. 1,134 workers died. 2,500 were injured, according to Human Rights Watch. The majority were women. Visible structural cracks had appeared in the building the morning of the collapse. Workers were sent back to their stations. H&M was not directly linked to Rana Plaza. but Rana Plaza made the supply chain visible for the first time. A chain running from Stockholm boardrooms to Dhaka factory floors. From $22 billion in annual revenue to $113 in monthly wages. In 2017, Danish broadcaster TV2 revealed that H&M had incinerated more than 60 tons of unsold, unworn clothing between 2013 and 2016, while simultaneously running global sustainability campaigns. H&M confirmed the figure. The company stated that incineration was a safety measure to prevent unsafe products from reaching consumers. The same products had been sold in their stores weeks earlier. Look at the label inside the jacket you're wearing right now. Does it say "Made in Bangladesh"? If it does, a woman earning $113 a month made it. Her name is not on the tag. Her working conditions are not in the marketing campaign. But her hands are in everything you chose this morning. Sweden gave the world H&M. H&M gave the world fast fashion. Fast fashion gave developing world garment workers conditions that Sweden's own labor laws would classify as exploitation. The distance between Drottninggatan and Dhaka is what makes the price tag possible. You just closed that distance. Chapter 5. Daily Life in Stockholm. Stand on Södermalm, Stockholm's southern island district at 7 a.m. The city is already moving. The turbana hums beneath the cobblestones. Bakery doors open into cold air carrying cinnamon. On this island, in this light, Sweden feels exactly like what it promised to be. Let me take you through a real day. Breakfast means fika, the Swedish ritual of stopping, sitting, and drinking coffee with something sweet. A kanelbullar, a cinnamon roll, costs 25 kronor, that is $2.30 USD. A flat white at the bakery next door costs 49 kronor, $4.50. For 10 million Swedes, this is not a luxury. It is a non-negotiable daily right. Lunch runs on a concept called dagens lunch, the daily set meal. A main course, salad bar, bread, and coffee for 130 to 150 kronor. That is $12 to $14. Reasonable for the income level. In London, the same meal costs $22. In New York, $28. Stockholm's lunch culture still believes food should be eaten by humans, not just professionals. Dinner is where the calculation changes. An average Stockholm grocery bill for one person runs 2,500 to 3,500 kronor per month, $230 to $325. A restaurant dinner for two lands at 600 to 900 kronor, $55 to $83. Stockholm ranks among the 25 most expensive cities on Earth, according to Mercer's 2023 Cost of Living Survey. Transport is efficient and clean. A single T-Bana ticket, 36 kronor, $3.35. Monthly unlimited travel card, 990 kronor, $92. The metro runs 24 hours on weekends. No potholes, no uncertainty, no waiting in heat for something that never arrives. The number that defines whether Stockholm is livable: rent. An average central Stockholm rental runs 14,000 to 18,000 kronor per month, $1,300 to $1,680. Median monthly salary before tax, approximately 35,000 kronor, $3,250. Sweden's income tax at the top threshold reaches 52%, third highest in the OECD, according to 2023 taxing wages data. You give Sweden half your income, Sweden gives you free healthcare, free universities, and a functioning pension. For most Swedes, the bargain holds. For young professionals waiting 20 years in Stockholm's subsidized housing queue, the bargain is starting to feel one-sided. Would you eat street food in Sweden? Drop yes or no in the comments. And if you have been to Stockholm, tell me the one thing that surprised you most. Chapter 6. Beauty and Resilience. After all of this, the gang war inside the welfare state, the loneliness epidemic, the 40 years of forced sterilization, is there anything beautiful left in Sweden? The answer will genuinely surprise you. Drive north. Keep driving. Past Stockholm, past Sundsvall, past the Arctic Circle. Drive until the road ends. You have arrived at Abisko, Swedish Lapland, at 77 degrees north latitude. Between November and February, the sky above Abisko does something that stops people mid-sentence. The northern lights, aurora borealis, move in green, violet, and white across total darkness. They fold and ripple like curtains in a wind with no visible source. Abisko sits inside a meteorological anomaly, a stable gap in cloud cover that produces some of the clearest night skies on Earth. The Swedish Meteorological and Hydrological Institute documents an average of 45 clear viewing nights per winter here. The nearest major settlement is 100 kilometers away. You are completely alone with something the universe made without asking your permission. UNESCO declared the Laponian area, 9,400 square kilometers of Swedish Lapland, a World Heritage Site in 1996. 4 national parks: Mudus, Sarek, Pajalanta, Stora Sjöfallet. Home to Sami indigenous communities whose reindeer herding practices stretch back 9,000 years. Sarek alone has 200 peaks above 1,800 meters and 0 maintained trails. Enter without preparation, and you will not return on your own terms. This is Sweden's other face. A country that cannot solve loneliness in Stockholm can give you a wilderness that does not fit inside a human framework. In Malmö's Rosengård district, the same suburb from Chapter 1, 3 times average unemployment, gang violence in the stairwells. A boy named Zlatan was born to Bosnian and Croatian immigrant parents in 1981. He played football outside apartment towers identical to Biskopsgården's. Sweden's football establishment rejected him repeatedly. Too individual, too complicated. Too confident for what the culture preferred. He retired with 570 professional club goals, 5 league titles across 4 countries, careers at Paris Saint-Germain, Barcelona, AC Milan, and LA Galaxy. Zlatan Ibrahimovic did not escape Rosengård through the route the statistics suggested. He refused to become one. In March 2024, Sweden formally joined NATO, ending 210 years of military neutrality. Swedish defense contractor Saab reported a 23% revenue increase in 2023. The Gripen jet fighter entered procurement discussions with 8 nations. The country that wanted to stay out of everything now sits at the center of European security architecture. Sweden was once called the world's most naive nation, 2 centuries neutral while continents burned. It has become one of Europe's most consequential strategic partners, not because its problems disappeared, but because its people refused to be defined by them. Chapter 7. The Price of the Paradise. These are not separate facts. They are the same fact seen from different angles. Gang violence, loneliness, 40 years of forced sterilization, fast fashion, profits built on $113 monthly wages. And under all of it, Northern Lights at Abisko, a boy from Rosengård who became one of the greatest footballers alive, and 10.6 million people who still pay 52% income tax because they believe in each other. Every number in this documentary is verified. Swedish Police Authority, Eurostat, WHO, UNESCO, Statistics Sweden, OECD, Human Rights Watch. Nothing here is invented. 10.6 million Swedes. Most did not choose any of this. They were born into it, the same way you were born into yours. Sweden does not need your pity. It needs your understanding. What would you do, genuinely, if you had been born in Biskopsgarden? Leave your answer in the comments. I read every one. If Sweden has changed how you see the world today, subscribe to Real Life Files. We are documenting every country on Earth. No filters, just truth. New video every 3 days. Next time, the Czech Republic, a nation famous for its breathtaking architecture, but hiding a quiet crisis beneath the surface. It is home to the highest alcohol consumption per capita in the world, where beer is cheaper than water, and cultural tradition masks a deep-rooted struggle with dependency. Real Life Files. See you there.